So we can all overthink things at times, and sometimes the mind just wants to just go with those thoughts, just wants to go with everything that just pops in. But we also need to remember that the thoughts are just that. They're just thoughts. They are nothing more than a thought. They're not controlling you. They're not telling you what to do. They're just a thought that pops in the mind. So depending on your level of awareness with regards to thoughts, one of the easiest ways to calm the mind down and slow the mind down is to just, when the thought comes in to your mind and it starts to take over, bring your awareness to that thought and just be aware of it. Just be aware of when it's there. Because sometimes we have to compartmentalize the thought and then the next action that I'm going to get into. Because it can sometimes, from knowing about this from having your anxiety from years ago, but sometimes we're totally unaware of the thought until it's kind of like just totally consumed us. So we really need to tune into the awareness of what's going on internally. And the only way we can do that is actually just by slowing down and moving into the body, moving internally. And the best way to do that, when something just starts creeping in, focus on your breathing. And I often say to my clients that I work with week in, week out, how many times a day and how many hours within the day are you actually aware of your breath? How long are you actually aware of your breathing? And most people, unless they're hard in meditation practice or in some sort of use mindfulness techniques or whatever, will probably be totally unaware of the breath, because the breath is just the breath. People take it for granted, but most people are just totally unaware of the breath, because we don't have to think about it. We don't have to be consciously aware, because your autonomic nervous system, it just does what it needs to do. It controls your hormones, it controls your breathing, it controls and regulates your heartbeat, it controls your nervous system. It has everything going on, and we don't have to think about it. We don't have to be aware of it. When we start to actually be aware of it is where we start to take over, and we start to be more in control of ourselves. We start to become more in control of the thoughts, because the thoughts themselves are what create the emotion. So when the emotion starts to arise, and thoughts and emotion can come from triggers, can come from trauma, can come from your shadow, it'll come from your ego, it'll come from all sorts of different things. But when we start to become actually aware of it, and then we've tuned into the breath, we're breathing, then we can start to think, maybe not straight away, give it a bit of time, build your practice up, but then you can start to be aware of the emotions that are arising with it. So first and foremost, the first thing to work on is just the awareness of the thought of when it pops in. So for a lot of people like me, it was all the time until I went to bed. And then I got into bed and the mind just went, it was like a whirlwind, it was like a whirlpool, and it was always the worst possible scenario. And then eventually I would just fall asleep out of sheer mental exhaustion. That's how bad it was for me. And then as soon as I woke up in the morning, again, straight away, the mind kicked in. It's like, right, it's another day, let's torture you a little bit more. And that's what the mind and the ego, if you allow it, and if you allow it to control you, that's what it will do. So it's about taking back control of you. You're the actual consciousness. You're the vessel that carries all this stuff around. So why let all that stuff control you? So the awareness of the thought, when that thought starts to come in, and if it's first thing in the morning, if it's as soon as you wake up, the thought is there, you're like, right, just stop yourself, breath, breathe. Just focus on the breathing in, the breathing out. Be aware of the air as it enters the body, as it leaves the body, and just the rise and fall of the body as you breathe, and trying to be conscious of your breath, where you're sending your breath, trying to breathe into the belly. So maybe place a hand on your stomach so you can feel your belly rise and fall. And the reason why we try to breathe into the belly as well, this is a little bit more advanced, but the reason why we try to breathe into the belly is it turns on your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest response to everything. So it's where you can just kind of rest and just relax. And the more you become more relaxed, the more you open up, the more you become more consciously aware of yourself. You become more consciously aware of your body. You become more consciously aware of emotions. And from that very point, when you become aware of that stuff, is where change is happening. Healing is happening because the awareness has kicked in. And that is a really, really transformative place to be in. And from then on, it becomes another process and another process. And we build and build and build upon our practice. Day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. And it's a lifelong process. You know, when you start this stuff, when you start meditating, when you start doing Reiki, when you start doing your spiritual practices, whatever they may be, it's lifelong, it's a journey. And you will come to the point where you cannot function without just 5-10 minutes of just that awareness of breath every morning, every night, maybe through the day. I have, like, on my dinner hour at work, an hour is a long time for me for a dinner. I'm not used to it really. So I tend to just sit for the last half hour and I'll meditate for 20 minutes. And it boosts me up. It makes me feel better. You release those feel-good endorphins and all the chemicals that are released from the brain, just because you've given your body and your mind chance to just to zone out of everything, and you've just relaxed into the present moment. And the present moment is exactly where the breath is. That's why a lot of these practices are focused around the breath. You know, you can become more technical within your meditation practice. You can do other stuff. You know, you can use mantras and all other different things. But the breath, and first and foremost, is always the first thing that when we go into a practice, that is what we tune into, because it brings us right into the here and now. And your breath connects you to your inner self, your light, your consciousness. It just brings you into that moment. So when the thoughts enter, breath is the first thing you need to focus on. Just breathe and just be aware of the breath. And every time another thought pops up, another feeling pops up, whatever it might be, just come back to the breath. And the more you enhance on your meditation journey, you know, if you like this advice, do like and follow for more, or subscribe to the channel, whichever this video goes on to. But the more you develop this practice, the more techniques and the more ways you can use to harness, to enhance your journey and your healing, to facilitate what you need for you. So, like I say, like and follow for more, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.